Alfieri. Wow, that's going to be a tough one to follow. First of all, Rohan, you're my long-lost brother, man. His story is so much like mine. Before we get started, though, can everybody stand up for a minute? Help me out. I do this in every one of my training sessions at work, and I ask everybody in my team this question, and they have to give me this response. It's called great, okay? That's all you have to do is say great, okay? Do that for me. Ready? How's everybody doing today? Great. All right, you can sit down. Thank you. I'm honored and privileged to be able to speak with you guys today. Walt asked me to do this, and I just love the opportunity to share with you guys some of my experiences that will help you hopefully get along. And my goal for today is to give you some information that will help you achieve success right after you graduate. Obviously, everybody here is on the right path. You guys are getting an education, you're doing the right things, you're putting in the work, and this is a great opportunity. So let me give you a little bit of background about me and my company. First of all, I own a company called O2 Media. We produce 4 national television series that air on Lifetime TV every morning, as well as in syndication around the country. The shows that we do are all shows about education and empowerment. We want to help people make better decisions in their life by giving them better information, and we bring brand experts on our shows to help do that. And we are the leader in that category. We've produced over 2,000 television programs that are all around these solution-oriented topics. So sometimes I get asked, well, gosh, Mark, how did you get to a place where you have national television shows and you employ hundreds of people? And I have to go back and talk a little bit about my history and how it started for me. I grew up, so a background is, I grew up in a small town in New Jersey. And we lived in a family that struggled to get by, but worked really hard. My father, who happens to be here today, which I'm excited about, owned a beauty salon in a neighboring town. And we would, just do what we had to do to get by. And one year, my grandfather, who owned a place down here on Hollywood Boulevard, so right by here, invited us down for a vacation. So we came down to visit my grandfather, who spent some time down here. And when we came to visit, my father decided to journey out and see what was around this area in Florida. So he stumbled across a town called Boca Raton. And he came back to the apartment that we were staying at really, really excited about Boca Raton. He had all these visions about Boca Raton. So we went home, and pretty quickly after we got back, we had a family meeting. I have 3 older brothers, and we sat down at this family meeting, and my father said to me, after living in New Jersey his entire life, all of our cousins and relatives were there, he said, I'm closing my business and we're moving to Florida. Wow, we're going to move to Florida. My brothers weren't very happy about that. They were already in high school, so they had all their friends. And we asked why. Why are we going to move to Florida? And he had several reasons to move to Florida. Reason number 1 was the fact that it was great weather all year round. He gets tired of shoveling the snow. But more importantly, the great weather meant something to him. What it meant was his 4 boys could play sports all year long. And my father was really, really into us playing sports. And his reason for that was sports. What do you learn about life in sports? Well, first, you learn how to be a part of a team. Be a team player. It's not all about you. It's about contributing to the team. 2, you learn how to be competitive, to not just sit there. Somebody's keeping score, so you get to measure things that you do. And then the last part about it is practice. 3, if you want to be good and not sit on that bench, you better practice. Because if not, somebody next to you is going to put the practice in, and they'll be playing while you're watching. And so he wanted to get us into sports, and the fact that we could play sports all year long was a very big motivator. But there was one other reason why my father moved to Florida. He had found out that 1 out of 39 people in Boca Raton were millionaires. 1 out of 39. That's pretty good odds. So he figured that if we move to Florida and live in Boca Raton, we become rich by osmosis. Just hang around with the millionaires. Not really, but in a sense, he was absolutely right. So that brings me to 4 principles that I'm going to share with you guys today. 4 principles, but that I believe that if you write these down, you are going to be successful. Very, 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 very successful no matter what you pursue. So here they are. Principle number 1, mirror success. That's what my dad was basically telling us. Mirror success. Let's go hang around with some highly successful people and learn from them. Rohan talks about Anthony Robbins. In 1988, I listened to one of his first series that he did, and it was called Unlimited Power. And in there, it actually articulated mirror success. If you do what successful people do, you will get similar results. Pretty simple concept, right? So, mirror it. For me, when I was 19 years old, I got an opportunity to work in a summer for a gentleman by the name of Jim Neiswanger. Now, Jim owned several companies, and this was his third, and it sold vacation packages over the telephone. So I got a chance to get a job there, and I figured, Jim, he's worth $100 million a year. He's got a lot of money in the bank. He's a really rich dude. So I'm going to show up to work early. I'm going to be there late. Everybody else is going to be gone. And maybe Jim will impart upon me some great wisdom, great tricks and techniques that will help me become successful at what I do. So that's what I did. I hung around Jim, and Jim shared with me some great ideas. So that was mirroring success. And I got successful at that company because I listened to Jim. But I also got successful there because of principle number 2. And principle number 2 is called the law of the opposites. Most people follow the herds. If you look at this, 95% of the people in this world still make $50,000 a year or less. $50,000 a year or less. Now, at one point, that was a decent amount of money. But today, you certainly aren't going to be able to do the things that you want to do in life at $50,000. Now, you might start there, which is fine, but let's not end there. So the law of the opposites dictates this. And what it says is that if everybody else is going left, you go right. So what did that mean for me? Well, I showed up to work early. Everybody else showed up on time or a little late. I worked through lunch and gobbled down my sandwich at my desk. They all went to lunch and came back a little late. They punched the clock at 5:30. It was dark out when I went home. And I got the opportunity by working harder than all the other folks there, number 1, to be around somebody who was successful, but number 2, by doing the opposites. They dialed the phone 50 times a day. I dialed it 100. And ultimately, over the course of time, my checks were a lot bigger than theirs. And that's how I moved up and got ahead. That brings me to principle number 3. Principle number 3 is talent is overrated. Now, if you want to go play in the NBA, you probably need some talent, like 6'5", maybe gifted, you can dunk. But for most other things, and 99% of the other things that you're going to do, it doesn't necessarily take talent. Talent is a misnomer. It really takes this thing called deliberate practice. And what deliberate practice is, find the 2 or 3 things that make somebody successful, the items that makes them successful, the things that they do that are successful, and practice those religiously. Practice them over and over and over again, and you will have similar results because you're putting in the practice that most people aren't putting in. Now, my story for that is a 7th grade story, and it was with Walt at the roller skating ring because we did spend some time there. And Walt and some of his other friends were much better skaters than me. They could roller skate. And I found that there was this correlation between good roller skater, pretty girls. Bad roller skater, nobody wanted to do the couple skate with me because I'm falling all over myself. Okay? So, deliberate practice. I said, I'm going to become a really good skater. How am I going to do that? I'm going to look at what people do, and I'm going to practice it and practice it. So I would practice my skating. I'd fall over, get hurt, keep getting up, doing it over and over again, and eventually I became a really, really good roller skater. But I'm better than Walt now, and he'll have to admit to that. So that's the whole principle of deliberate practice. Talent is something that is developed. It's not something in most cases that you're gifted with. A couple years ago, I could not stand up here on the stage and speak to you. I'd be petrified. But I've practiced this part to get a little bit better at it. And a few more years, I might actually be decent. We'll see how it goes. But it's practice. Which brings me to principle number 4. Principle number 4 is called failing forward. Failing forward. What does failing forward mean? Well, most people who fail, they say, oh, I'm never doing that again. That didn't work. I'm going in the opposite direction. What failing forward is about using failure as your stepping stones to success. And how does that work? Well, if you really think about it, when you fail at something is when you have the best opportunity to learn. Because when you're just good at something, when you just start it, you don't really know what makes you good. But when you stink, you kind of figure that out. And you learn through that process. Thomas Edison took him 10,000 tries to get the light bulb right. 10,000. And you know his quote, because it's very famous, right? He didn't think about getting it wrong 9,999 times. He just said there was 9,999 ways that it didn't work. And if he would have stopped at 9,998, we wouldn't be sitting here with no light. But it's failing forward. So if you're willing to fail, you have to be not afraid to fail, but recognize that the failure is where your success is at. It's in that failure. So don't be afraid to venture out and do that. So to summarize, there's 4 points. You want to be successful, hugely successful. Mirror success, number 1. 2, do the opposites of everybody else, law of the opposites. 3, recognize that talent's not what's limiting you. It's your effort to put the deliberate practice into things that you want to be passionate about and the things that you want to pursue. Pursue them relentlessly with that passion. And 4, don't be afraid to fail. We're all going to fail. We fail at everything that we do, but failure is not a bad thing. It's a great thing because it gives you the opportunity to succeed. Without it, there is no success. So the last part I'll tell you, to summarize it all up, is that someday I believe you guys are going to be standing up here. And when you're successful, and I see you on the other side with success, remember this. You should stand up here and you pay it forward to the next folks that are sitting in the audience. Because you will be up here and you will have that success. Thank you guys.